Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Spoil Me, covering One Piece, episodes 289 and 290. In these episodes, we get to see Frankie and his cola-powered punches, and Chopper decides to take a huge risk, and it may not go super well for him. Welcome to Spoil Me. Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha. Thank you very much to... Actually, I'm just realizing I was going to say Gabriella, and then I was like, is that true? I do this sometimes. Apologies. Nope. To Florian for commissioning this episode. I am just so into this whole arc so much, and I'm really, really excited at the fact that we're getting to explore a little bit more of what Chopper can do. You guys know Chopper is my cinnamon roll bud. I love him so much. And it has always kind of bummed me out that he can transform into this giant hulking figure, and yet he's often not really in the fights. Like, you know, because he doesn't have any special powers, and yeah, he gets big and he can be kind of intimidating looking, but he's not really tough in terms of being experienced with fighting. So I understand that, but I always just feel like I want him to get more of a chance. And then the last episodes, he uses Rumble Balls, and it was really fun. And I said to y'all, I just hate the fact that he gets such a limit put on him. You know, he has the Rumble Balls that he's got on him. That's all he's got. And, you know, even if he has more than that on him, he can't necessarily do that because it can fuck with him. Which, I will be honest, I didn't remember that there were side effects to his body as a result of using these things, and I should have. So, the fact that we're seeing him really push it to the limit this time and try out something because he really genuinely feels like there isn't another option. I am very nervous for him, but I'm also very here for it. This is the sort of thing where a lot of situations in TV shows where somebody has not even necessarily a power, but they have access to a sort of forbidden object or whatever, they will be put in a position where they are given the choice to use it, and it feels like they haven't got any other choice. But a lot of times the situation that they're put into, it feels as if it's very contrived in order to give them no other choice, so that they're just in this corner. And there's a feeling sometimes of well, if they don't choose to do the thing, they're an idiot. And I really like that here, Chopper, it's very much a choice. He could actually not do this, and while they will suffer, his group of friends, if he doesn't, probably, there's no direct, when I'm thinking of the examples I was giving in terms of other TV shows doing this, a lot of times it'll be somebody is in their arms dying, and they're choosing whether or not to do a thing, and they have to decide if this person's life is worth taking this risk. And in this situation, it's that is technically still kind of what's going on, but it's a lot less direct and a lot less of a 1-to-1 ratio of this action will result in XYZ happening. So it feels less like he's being blackmailed into it and much more like a free choice that he's making for himself. And also, the reasons for choosing to do it anyway make total sense. the choice he's making is a choice that I can respect and understand. And I feel like it's a reasonable risk he's taking. There are times where the choices that people make in these situations, I'm just like, why would you do that? There are other options, bro. But Chopper, it's like a combination, I think, of me having wanted to see more from him and find out really what he could do. And so kind of just wanting to egg him on out of personal curiosity, but also him feeling like we are up against enemies of a caliber we don't usually deal with. And unless I manage to like pull one out, I don't know that we're going to make it. And I feel like that's a very reasonable feeling right now. They all have like the sentiments expressed by a lot of the CP9 members who have been going up against our friends throughout this arc are, I saw what you could do back on Water 7 and I wasn't impressed. And so everybody is having to kind of pull it out and really go for it. And I feel like this is the time for Chopper, and this is a version of that for him, is I guess I really just have to step it up, you know? So anyway, I just wanted to start off talking about that because I'm just really excited about it. And the way that episode 290 ends is with just like this hulking silhouette of Chopper with these glowing fucking eyes. I was so mad when it cut to fucking credits. I knew it would. Of course it was gonna. But I was just so mad, you guys. I really, really wanted to know what happened right away. I really did. Seraphim says, this was the first we heard about the side effects of taking more too soon. Till now, it's just not been something he's done. Really? That is so weird. Because when he said it, it felt like, not that I had seen, because, you know, we see some scenes with Witch Doctor that we had not seen before. So I wasn't thinking, oh yeah, we've seen these moments. But I thought it had been mentioned that it wasn't good for him. That, like, he could only take up to 2 or 3. Is that how many? I can't even remember what the restriction is. Okay, that surprises me. I could have sworn. Well, whatever. It does not matter. But we know it now. So let's back up a little bit, because we really start off this episode duo with Frankie, because he has just punched Zippermouth right through the wall. And I love him and Chopper just standing there staring through the holes. This dude has gone through more than one wall, and I just enjoy that Frankie is standing there smiling and enjoying the moment. There is something about having gotten your ass kicked by somebody and then you manage to put them through a couple of walls where I feel like it's a very human thing. Let's take a pause. Let's appreciate this work. Let's look at this. And this is when Chopper explains to him about Zorro and Sniper King winding up, locked up together, and the fact that they need this key. And I have to admit, I really did appreciate Frankie's response to that, which was like, oh my God, everything keeps getting fucking stupider. That's a completely acceptable reaction to this. He's just like, why does everything have to become more and more goofy? And so he's like, all right, well, at least we know what's on the line. So we go into this like kind of much more evenly matched fight sequence than we had before. And Zippermouth gets up and guys, I know that I do this every episode. I know that every time I have dealt with this character, I have done this, but I need you guys to know how fucking unsettling I find this character. I can't really put my finger on exactly what. It's like a combination of everything. But it's the character's look and design. It's the weirdness of the mouth. It's the childlike female voice. And the chapapa, like, being sort of, there's almost a quality to it. And I don't know if it's because the other CP9 agents don't really have that kind of catchphrase going on. But, well, it's not true because what's his face has oi oi oi. But the oi 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 is so, it's such an exaggerated, like, sort of emotional thing, and that's how that character is, that it feels much more natural, because he is somebody who is just going to make weird noises to emphasize shit because he's so dramatic. This character, that cha-pa-pa-pa doesn't go with anything. That is not a particular sound that I associate. It might be like a Japanese onomatopoeia for something, but I don't know what that is. And so every aspect, I think this, and now I think I'm realizing why. All of the aspects of this character, the voice, the look, the catchphrase, the clothing, the mouth, all of it has absolutely nothing to do with each other. There's nothing that feels thematic. And I think that's what's making him feel so creepy. It's like, because none of it makes any logical sense, I can't latch onto an aspect of it and be like, okay, so that's what this guy's deal is. Like, it took a while before he even mentions the fact that he, like, can't resist gossip for me to understand the zipper mouth kind of joke that's being made. And I latched onto that a little bit because I was like, oh, finally something to explain any of this. And really, that's not that big a factor in terms of, I mean, we don't get a lot more of him gossiping or anything like that. And certainly his outfit, which is just like a basic black suit with a black necktie, that doesn't tie in. Like, I know this is probably a harmful and low-key misogynist stereotype, so I'm going to apologize. But if I were going to be designing a character who is supposed to be a huge gossip who can't keep their mouth shut, I'm designing like a housewife. I'm designing somebody that traditionally has been the type where we'd be like, oh, they are in a domestic setting or with like people often enough, and in a neighborhood kind of, you know, that they are able to have lots of conversations about other people's business. So what would that look like? I don't know. Like, there's a lot of ways that you could try and represent a housewife, but just this is all over the place. All over the place. And I know that's like a thing in general that I need to get used to about the way One Piece characters are often designed, and that things don't go together. But there's usually a little bit more cohesion to it than this. And I'm not saying this as a criticism of the character. I want you to understand that. I think it's very effective at being the unsettling, creepy creature. I just have, it took me a little while to sort of circle around to what it is I think that causes me to feel that way, when we have really run into some weirdos in this universe, and I haven't had this strong a reaction to almost any of them. And I think that's why it's like, even when things feel a little bit disconnected, there's been a weird thread that I can follow sometimes. And this guy, I feel like I don't really, there isn't one. So yeah, he had been saying essentially that I don't need to worry about your pathetic punches. And then Frankie sends him through several walls. And then standing here, Frankie's shoulders like jut up, and he yells out destroyer cannon. But it turns out to use this technique, he has to dislocate his shoulders. You guys, I hate this so much. I have never had, thank God, a dislocated joint. And all I know is that they are supposed to be some of the most painful things. There is, you know what? I was going to reference something else that I'm covering, but it has to do with a sexual assault in a storyline. And so I am not going to go there right now because it's pretty dark. But this is truly a horrific thing. And I'm like, why would you even build this in, dude? Why would you do it, Frankie? Even fucking Chopper is like, then don't do it. So Zippermouth says those cannonballs aren't even going to hit me because I am a master and very fast and I'll be able to get out of the way. And Frankie tells him that these are like seeking missiles, essentially. And Chopper is off to the side thinking about, wait, so they chase him wherever he's going and don't stop until they've actually like landed? That is insane. I mean, I never even heard of that kind of technology. This guy is amazing. And we get a cutaway, very like Scrubs style, of what Chopper imagines these seeking missiles would look like, with Zippermouth just like running with his little legs and like breathing hard and looking behind him. I was cackling. This was so weird and so funny. And I was sort of like, yeah, of course that's what he means, right? Like, that's what it has to mean. And then we cut back, and what Frankie means is just, I will chase you. That's what he means. I can't with this guy. That's not chasing, like, what? No. So he just starts running after him and just firing at random all over the fucking like building with he never hits him. And he just starts to get really mad at the fact, like, he disappeared again. He puts his shoulders back in place and there's all of this like smoke clearing behind him. And I love this so much. Zippermouth is like, it's no use trying to find me. I'm an expert at shave, one of the Rokushiki techniques. In addition to my lightning speed, I make no noise when I move, just like owls when they're hunting. I always carry out assassinations perfectly. And we have Frankie like, it's like he's been transported to a forest for a moment and there's an owl coming up behind him. My target won't see me until the moment of his death. And then we cut back to the present where Zippermouth is grinning, standing behind Frankie, but doesn't see that Chopper is right behind him. And Chopper just fucking decks him. Y'all, that was so good. I loved this so much. Anytime that Chopper can just like lay somebody low, I am so delighted by it. I need him to get as many wins as possible is like basically my energy around Chopper. So while there may be times where I'm like, okay, it's sort of unrealistic that he came out on top on this one, I'm never going to be mad about it because I always want him to win. Just perpetually, always. Doesn't matter. And also like the look that he has on his face when he sneaks up behind him. It's just anytime that Chopper has that sort of like scary tough guy thing going on, I always am so proud of him. I'm just proud, babe. Good for you. So when he sneaks up on him and punches him, Zippermouth is like, all right, that's enough. I've been humiliated. I'm coming at you. And he rolls across the floor in an iron ball technique, which takes Frankie right off the side of the building and into the ocean. And that shit scared me so bad. Y'all know I am already extremely nervous about everything surrounding this tall ass tower that is already broken in pieces in the middle of a piece of land hovering over these like low key, endless magical waterfalls. This is an extremely scary situation. And the fact that they fly off the side and then they're right next to a waterfall, like right there. So the current is so strong. And Frankie is like really struggling against it. Whereas it seems as if Zippermouth is just fine. He says, even if I get thrown into the waterfall, I can use moonwalk because that's basically flying. And I was just like, I hate you so much for this, sir, because I just don't want to be here in general. I know it's probably going to be fine, but it just gives me such anxiety. Seraphim says, can't find anything about the chapapapa. It seems to just be a weird vocal tick Oda gave him to go with his weird everything else. The yo-yo-yoi hair guy keeps using is a stock sound effect from Kabuki Play. Okay, that's what I thought. I was guessing that was like, because everything with him, for example, is deeply themed and all definitely goes together. Like, that he makes sense. So I can make assumptions like that and be like, yeah, I'm pretty sure that's probably what's going on there. I can't do that with Zippermouth. There's nothing that hangs together. It's just so strange. So anyway, Frankie is over here just like kind of losing his shit because he's about to drown. And then we get oh my God, y'all. Hair guy. I'm just going to call him hair guy. Y'all know who I mean. I'm not good with names in the show. I'm sorry. There are so many fucking characters. I am really not going to like take all that much responsibility for it in this show. I'll be honest with you guys. There are times where I'm like ashamed and I'm like, I should do better. This show is not one of them because there's just so much. But he manages to bust out of the fucking refrigerator. And he's gotten fat, but then he manages to like process all of that and immediately digest and become thin again. And Chopper does this weird thing where he's like so enthralled by it that he asks him to do it again and again. He does it 3 times, which by the 3rd time it seems like he's getting kind of tired out. But it was such a weird thing because, like, I believe now that Chopper is genuinely impressed and is like, wait. Seriously, though, how did you do that? I thought at first Chopper was just buying himself some time, or that he was hoping this was going to, like, if the guy did it, undid it, redid it enough times, maybe it would sort of backfire on him. But it seems like Chopper was genuinely just interested. Just like, but wait, how is that possible? So then we have Frankie, who's starting to go over the side of the waterfall. Again, you guys, the anxiety. So he starts doing like a really strong, he calls it Frankie butterfly. And he's like just barely managing to stay kind of in place, but he's not really moving very far. And then we have this asshole come up behind him to do moonwalk. And he runs up. He uses a technique that he calls solid beast. And he punches Frankie underwater. And so at this point, I'm just genuinely like, how is he going to... Maybe does he have some machinery that can help him? I don't know. Now, I have a question, okay? He's underwater, and he just erupts out of the water and uses one of the weapons of, like, the gun in his wrist in midair. And I don't understand how he is able to eject himself into the air like he's got fucking rocket boots on, but he wasn't doing that before when he was like grabbed by the current. Like, it's a really weird moment where I'm supposed to be super worried about him, and it was working. I was genuinely like, what is happening? And then he's fucking levitating. It's like there's no connection to the tools that he has built into his body. I don't really get how this, you know? And like he drops back into the water again and begins to go backward. And at that point, I'm like, but you were up in the air. Like, you can get out of this anytime you want. Now, I am not buying that he is in any danger. And I'm clearly meant to. But like, we could have just had him firing from the water. We didn't need him to be up in the air to kind of undo all of the tension there. Kratos says because it looks cool, and Seraphim says, yeah, just anime rule of cool logic on this one. It's just so... It just really like completely ruined the effect of him being like trapped and unable to get out of this dangerous situation. He freed himself so easily and just did this thing. And I was like, now I'm not worried about it. And he does. He winds up just using that coup de bout, which this is his like fart technique, but I don't know what coup de bout translates to, or if this is like, you know, I don't know what the name of it means, but I wanted to mention it. And he uses that to get out and hit Zippermouth in the air. But it just initially I was like, if you have that in your arsenal, why were you frantically butterfly swimming up the fucking waterfall? Just do that then. So he is up in the air for a moment. Dude kicks him back into the falls yet again. But as he is falling, Frankie launches one of his hands out because it's like on a chain. And he grabs Zippermouth and is like, essentially, I know that you have that moonwalk ability, but it can't hold us both steadily. And if I hang on to you, that means that you may eventually fall as well. So basically, Frankie's like, if I'm going down, you're going to go down with me, or you can just desperately try to stay aloft and carry me with you. It's one of these two. And Zippermouth is like, all right, fine. And he's getting up, but he's saying essentially as they're heading up, I will be launching a technique you haven't seen yet from me the instant that we are on land again, because I am sick and tired of this and I need to get rid of you. I'm just like over it at this point. We'll fight the moment we get there. And Frankie says, oh, you think so? Yeah, because I just thought of a way to finish you off with just one blow. And he says something about how like there was a technique that he forgot about. And I was like, that seems like a weird thing to do, but I don't know how many techniques he's got up his sleeve. So we cut back at that point to Luffy, who, reminder, had just busted a hole in the wall and turned very tiny. Just want to remind everybody, we still... Oh, sorry, Demian is in the chat. It's his fart explosion. Wait, he does it without coup de bout. It looks like the first time that he jumps out of the water, he does it without any, like, propulsion. He just jumps. And then when he falls into the water again, then he does it. So, yeah, it's just kind of all over the place. But I just wanted to remind everybody, like, at this point, Luffy's weird second gear, third gear thing still hasn't been explained to us. So we watch him turn bright red like a hot water bottle and launch an attack that lays a CP9 member out. And then we watch him here break down a huge, like several feet thick door and become extremely tiny for a minute and return to his regular size quite abruptly. But none of this has been explained at all. So I am sure we'll get there, but I just want y'all to remember, I don't know why any of this is possible yet. And I really do kind of wish we were given something, like a little something. But it's fine. He is just repeating to himself about how he is here to save Robin and like calling to her as he is running down the hallway. There's really not a lot more going on than just reminding us that Luffy is on his way. And then we get a sequence that I genuinely found so fucking funny. So we go to Usopp and Zorro, and Wolf and Giraffe are in here getting kind of like cranky with each other. And the wolf says, you were pretending to aim at them, but you were really aiming at me, weren't you? And Giraffe is like, dude, that's really paranoid. And no, that's not what was happening. But I'm not going to lie, you fucking suck. And if you want to fight, I won't have a problem with it because I kind of am sick of your ass in my face. So they start to bicker. And Usopp is seeing an opportunity here. And he's like, oh, I know what we can do. So he begins to try and signal to Zorro, what's up? And be like, oh, just the other day you were asking me who would win in a fight, a giraffe or a wolf. And what I love about this is that lately this has been a real trend on the internet to like name a couple things and ask who would win in a fight. And it's always like kind of a fun thought experiment because people will go really out there with like their reasoning behind why a certain thing would work. So I like it in that it feels like the kind of conversation that maybe actually could really have happened, you know? However, Zorro is not picking up on this at all. And he's just like, no, I don't care who would win in a fight between them. I never asked you that. What are you talking about? And Usopp is just like, dude, oh my God. Yes, you did. Don't you remember? And Zorro is just fucking dense as hell and keeps being like, I don't really want to find out the answer to that. I don't care. So Usopp finally stops and is like, sir, you need to leave this to me. So I know that you think the wolf is the stronger one. And Usopp is so close to getting to this to work. Like, it really is. The way that each of them is talking about their respective animals is perfect. So Usopp is like, okay, Zorro, now's our chance. And he starts to sort of turn. And Zorro says, oh, now I get it. We can just distract them so that they're fighting each other, and then at least we'll get a chance to run. And Usopp is like, oh my fucking God, dude, what the hell? I can't believe, one, that it took you this long to figure out what I was doing, and two, that you would just say it out loud. What is wrong with you? And I was like, honestly, Zorro is like a himbo. I don't think I've really quite realized this, but honestly, this like moment paired with how bad his sense of direction is, I think he is kind of a himbo. He's just not really too smart and doesn't really like listen to anybody because he's very focused on the one thing that he does super well, and he looks fine as hell doing it, and that's all he really cares about. And there's not another thought in his pretty little head. And that's pretty much him. Other than, I want a nap. Those are pretty much his main thoughts. It's like, I need to do my weightlifting, I need to fight somebody, and I need a nap. And like anything outside of those couple of thoughts is just not there. Doesn't happen. So I'm going to say that's what I'm going with for him from now on. It's like a weird thing because normally we're used to himbos being a lot more like obviously goofy and lagging behind everybody else. But because he has such like a tough exterior and is a good fighter, I feel like it's thrown us all off from perceiving the reality here. And the reality is Zorro doesn't catch on to a lot of things right away. This is not the first time this has happened. It's just the one that I think I've found the funniest. Like, it's infuriating in the moment, but it's not as annoying as it's been a few other times. And I was preoccupied with him being like irritating. Here, it's genuinely super funny to me. And I was suddenly like able to step back and be like, oh, wait, Zorro's a blonde. He just is, like, you know, and no offense to blondes, you know what I mean by this. I mean another low-key misogynistic stereotype. I'm peddling a lot of those today. Apologies. But there it is. So Seraphim, that is not actually wrong. Also, drink all the booze. Yeah, I guess so. That hasn't really been that noticeable for me, but I guess a lot of times when I see him drinking, everybody's drinking, so it's sort of like he's just doing what everyone's doing. I believe you, but that's one that didn't really occur to me. But anyway, so yeah, I think that now that I have that in mind, the way that he keeps butting heads with Sanji is actually making more sense in a lot of ways, because like when I was sort of thinking of him as the dad of the group, it was difficult for me that he would get so riled up by Sanji that he would risk the rest of the crew because he would get so distracted and start fighting with his own partner and screw everything up. But if he's a himbo, of course he would get distracted and start fighting with him, because he just, like, imagine if Zorro was exactly the same, but played by a guy with a really different kind of voice. And I feel like we would all have come to this conclusion a lot sooner. So what I'm saying is complete paradigm shift in the way I see a character happening because of this scene. And I stand by it. It's so funny though, you guys. I just love this whole sequence so much. So then after he completely blows it and like just ruins Usopp's entire plan, which was like on the verge of working, then we cut to him. First, Usopp attempts once again to try and be like, oh, well, maybe we'll fight about which one of you is the most hip, which one of you is with it and stylish. And it really seems like maybe this will work too. But when Usopp starts to leave, he says, do you, like, that's not going to work. And Usopp says, well, do you have a different plan? And Zorro says, rock, paper, scissors. The problem is these handcuffs. There's a way to get them off us. We'll rock, paper, scissors, and the loser will cut off his own hand. This is so stupid. I love this so much. You guys, like, he's like, what if a himbo, but brought up in a really aggressively violent household? What in the fuck is the matter with you? And Usopp has a completely rational reaction to this, which is, what the fuck is that plan? And he's like, wait, hear me out. We've got Chopper, and we have the hand will be stuck in the handcuffs, so we won't lose it. So if we cut it off, Chopper can just sew it back on later. He's so sure this is a completely reasonable idea. And Usopp is like, we're not dolls, dude. What are you talking about? No, we're not doing that. And he tries to pull him away. And then we get another, I have a different idea. And again, I just really want to like mention his voice in the dub is this like, all right, I have another idea. And every time he says that he has an idea, the animation does that thing like he's holding a flashlight under his chin, telling a scary story around a campfire. Like it gets that really, really aggressive shading so that it's like, look at this cool, dangerous guy. But he is saying the dumbest shit you ever heard. So yeah, he says, I've got another idea. We go back to Giraffe and Wolf, who have, it looks like, almost successfully been looped into this stupid plan yet again to get them fighting over who is the hippest. And then we suddenly have Zorro. And he's got a sword in one hand and a sword and Usopp in the other hand. Usopp is just bound up like a sword himself. Like he's holding onto the shaft of the sword, the like hilt, so that Zorro can move using his body like a giant. Basically, Zorro is so strong that as long as Usopp isn't on the ground yanking, trying to go in any direction, he can lift him and do what he needs to do with him, and it's fine. You know? And I guess that makes sense, because Zorro is supposed to be really strong. So he's just, like, holding him up with one hand and playing like that's a sword. And, okay, so that's how it ends, is with Usopp being like, I will sue you. We go back to Frankie and Zippermouth, and they are fighting in midair. Again, Frankie manages to fuck him up a little bit, and they had been sort of spinning in the air, and that was the attack that he was using, was that he was like rotating and using the force of the rotation. And Frankie manages to stop the rotation and grabs onto him, and he... I love his inflated hands and forearms are just so funny. He does the coup de vent, I think is how you would say that. Coup de vent? I don't even know. But he basically like shoves this dude into the ground, into a crater. And it is... this man is pretty fucked up. I mean, he is just pretty fucked up because that is just what his face is like. But it really is like him at the bottom of a crater covered in scratches and blood with his eyes just like whited out. So, to return to Usopp and Zorro, he's saying, hold still. Just hold there. You are a sword. And he begins this fight, and Usopp is just so not here for this. It's like the only option that feels like it works in the moment. So he's going along with it, but you can tell he's just trying to come up with a different idea throughout. Meanwhile, Wolf and Giraffe are like, what the fuck? What is this? Are you serious? And Wolf Guy is cracking up. He is like crying, laughing. Usopp, meanwhile, is like, I can't believe you're really going to do it. You're really going to use me like a sword. And he leaps into this and uses Usopp, who gets like head-butted by the giraffe almost right away. And Zorro blames him and is like, if you didn't move, this wouldn't be a problem, but you keep moving. Just hold still. Oh my God. And then he says, well, if this isn't going to work, we have no choice but to rock, paper, scissors, and I'll cut off the hand of the loser. And Usopp says, don't you have any idea? In the dub, it says, in the sub I'm looking at, it says, don't you have any better ideas? In the dub, Usopp says, don't you have any ideas that don't involve blood? And in the dub, he squints and says, no, I really don't. And it is pitch perfect line delivery. Do you hear me? That line is so fucking hysterical. I lost my mind. No, I really don't. Oh my God. I am telling you guys, dub all the way. Dub forever. Don't you have any better ideas? With the response, no, I don't, is not even a quarter as funny as don't you have any ideas that don't involve blood? No, I really don't. That is so much fucking funnier. I fell out, you guys. I had my cat on my lap and she got up and left. She was very irritated because I ruined her nap because I was laughing. Oh my God. I can't even like talk about this now, but I'm like, oh man, I don't think that I realized how great a pairing between Usopp and Zorro could be. You know, we have Zorro getting paired up with Luffy and him just getting annoyed because Luffy is so headstrong and does whatever. We have him getting paired up with Sanji because Sanji gets distracted by women and he gets annoyed by that. And also Sanji doesn't like him. So he gets provoked. We've seen even him and Chopper, with Chopper just being scared and him having his big defender daddy. And that's its own thing. I don't feel like I have seen that much of him and Usopp. And the way that they bounce off each other in this particular fashion is wild, because in this scenario, Usopp is the voice of reason. And you really, if you were going to watch a scene of the two of them needing to fight some big bads, you would think Usopp would be the goofy one coming up with the bad ideas that wouldn't work, and that Zorro would be the one that was bringing Usopp back down to earth. And it just did not go the way you would think. And I love that. I love it so much. Oh God. And I should mention too, when he says, no, I really don't, the camera is like right up on his eyes and that dramatic shadow is happening again. It's so good. It's so good. It's so fucking funny. Anyway. Yeah, we don't have any time for arguments. And the two animals are just standing there looking at them like, are they going to fight us like for real? Are they ever going to take this seriously? And then Zorro just says, just give up your hand. Just do it. He said, that's the dub again. He says it in this way that's like, what are you making such a big deal out of this for? Oh my God, the whole thing is so funny. And Usopp just yells, oh my God, Chopper, where are you? Which brings us to Chopper. So, he is going up against this weird, fat performer. I really don't like to call him an assassin because I just feel like if you're going to have the title of assassin, some element of surprise and secrecy must be present. And I simply do not see that ever having happened with this guy. It's just not the way he does things. So, yeah, he is jiggling around because he apparently like ate all of the food in the refrigerator and it's just sort of sloshing around inside him. And then he smashes his staff into the ground and he says, life return. And I'm not really sure what that means, but life return and digest. And all of a sudden, he goes really, really thin for a second. Like, he has really angular cheekbones and almost has like a Benedict Cumberbatch look. But then his face is roundy again. It's not as big as it was when he was fat. But for a second, it's like he goes through an extreme. And like I said, this is when Chopper is watching him and is like, how the fuck do you do that? I love, I'm going to read this fucking monologue. I'm glad you asked. 1,000 years at sea and 1,000 years in the mountains, breathing in the wind and drinking dewdrops. I trained myself living as a hermit. After all, I acquired life return. Essentially, if you extend your consciousness everywhere, from your hair to your internal organs, toes, even the tips of your hair, there's no part of your body you can't manipulate. And this is fascinating. What I want is for Chopper to acquire this. This is not like a power that comes from a devil fruit. This is a power, it sounds like, you can learn. And if Chopper were given 1,000 years, he could learn it. I would like for him to not need 1,000 years because somebody just told him about it. What I'm going into with this like assumption is that this hair guy is like, I didn't know this was possible, but as I continued meditating and training by myself, eventually I stumbled upon this ability, and that it took him that long because he wasn't specifically trying for this ability. But now that he has told it to a person who is specializes in like the body, because of his abilities to transform with the devil fruit, because of the fact that he is a doctor. He's a doctor. I am hoping that maybe this is something that fucking Chopper can take advantage of. I would love that for him. I don't know though. We'll see. Chopper says something about how his hair is like an octopus, and he gets really mad and says more like a lion's mane. I was like, it didn't occur to me that you would see yourself that way, but actually he doesn't look that unlike Lion from Steven Universe, because Lion is also pink and has like a pale pink mane. So anyway, now begins the fight, and Chopper is at first low-key just trying to get away. Like, there's a real vibe of, I just need to survive this and get the fuck out of here. He's not going on the attack initially. He's just running from this dude's crazy ass hair. And he recognizes that I am just deeply outmatched here. If I get got by his hair, that's it. And almost gets got by a finger pistol, but he doesn't use his finger. It's the stick in his hand, that staff. That's what he used. And he creates like a huge crater in the kitchen ground. And this is when we have the moment where Chopper turns into like the man version of himself and punches him. And the guy uses the attack or defense, I guess it would be, of like iron gong. And when Chopper punches him, his hand begins to glow. And I think it's just supposed to be that it's glowing as like cartoon language for it's just in huge pain. But there was a part of me that was like, did that involve heat? Like, is his hand burning right now? And then we get Chopper considering what to do with a rumble ball. And we find out about, if I take another one too soon, it will, and I'm going to read this verbatim from the sub, because 1 in 6 hours, if I take more than that, it'll be a huge strain on my body. On top of that, if I take another, it'll alter the transformation wavelength, and it'll be hard to control my transformations. With a third one, I'd lose consciousness and hardly be able to fight. What do? I can take just one more and get the strength I need. And he does this, but the attacks that he is making aren't hitting, and his failure to control the way he's transforming results in him choosing the wrong form for the attack that he's trying to launch. So it becomes like, it's just really hard to watch, honestly, because he's doing his best to fight back, and his body is not cooperating with him. It's not under his control, you know? So we see him, he's flying through the air, and he's got like the big round furry body, but his like regular little chopper face, and he gets like lit on fire and thrown into a wall. And I was just I hated watching this. So again, he tries jumping point, and he's in the wrong body, so he doesn't jump the way he normally would. And again, he gets fucking nailed in the chest, and he's like bleeding. Y'all, I don't like seeing my chopper bleeding. It's upsetting. I hate it. It was just genuinely over and over again. I was like, I don't want to see this. I don't like looking at this. This is bumming me out. And he says, taking the second rumble ball is like gambling. There are 7 transformations in total. The probability of getting arm point is 1 in 7. If I could get it, I could hammer my strongest attack into him. But that's my only chance. So he yells arm point and is going at him. The defense is lion kebab. And Chopper is in the wrong form, again, sailing through the air, and then tries once more. Arm point, gets knocked aside again. He keeps, like, taking swipes at him, like he's being pitched a softball and just got a bat, you know? And this is when Chopper really starts to lose it, because he has gone through, I think at that point, 6 transformations, and none of them is the right one. So he's got this dude coming at him. He begins to do like cloven hoof. And then as he's running at him, this dude uses finger pistol on every lock of hair and comes at him with all of those at once, like he's shooting with a machine gun. I really, really hated that. Like, the finger pistol thing is already pretty scary, even though the name is extremely silly and I will never not think of fingering. It's a scary attack. And to have all of his hair be able to do it just feels so unfair. So he tries the cloven hoof, and it doesn't like do it succeeds in pushing him back, but it doesn't like break through him. Like we saw an X that went through the other dude, and this just sort of like, because he uses iron body, it shoves the dude backward several feet, and he like does wind up on his knees, but Chopper's on his fucking face. And this is a weird moment, you guys. He does it, and Hair Guy falls to his knees and says, "Indeed, it was indeed a beautiful cherry blossom blizzard." Did he like get memories from Chopper? That felt like he was referencing Chopper and the cherry blossom thing. And I was like, what, how did he know? Like, what was that? It was a weird moment. I don't know. So anyway, he steps up and he fucking steps on Chopper's head. And I will tell you what, guys, I was about over it. This was like, if I have to watch more of Chopper getting his ass kicked like this, I don't know how much I can take. And then we cut to the memory of him getting yelled at by Witch Doctor and being like, I get that you are trying to like make discoveries and you have curiosity about how things are going to work, but you almost destroyed an entire village. And you are really going to need to stop with this wild experimentation without having a plan in place or preparing for the worst ahead of time. Because you are out here playing with fire. And I know it doesn't come from a malicious place, but that's kind of part of why you need to be even more careful. Because this is you thinking you're doing the right thing. And that's a really like dangerous place to be coming from. So if you're like not going to be careful about this, you don't really have the right to call yourself a doctor because you're putting people in danger with what you're doing. And we come back to the present and Chopper is like, I guess I'm gonna have to take the last one. And he does. He's being gripped up by this dude's hair. And I hated this so much for him. The attack he's about to get launched at him is Crimson Song of the Willow. And I was like, that is a hell of a good name, actually. It's like way too much, but in a way that works. And we see him like getting strangled. And I hated it. I just can't emphasize enough, you guys, how upset this made me. He transforms into his tiny self, drops out of the grip. The rumble ball falls into his mouth and he bites down. And then we see his hair growing out wildly and these huge horns. And as he's growing, he's thinking, I hope nobody comes in here. And we see a shadow falling over Hair Guy. And then when we cut back to his memory, the witch is saying, you could say your devil powers went out of control. You went down a path where you didn't care about your foes, your friends, or your own body. Like you were willing to destroy everything. When you turned into that, the only word for it is that you were a monster. And then the camera pulls back and we see giant fucking Chopper with his glowing blue eyes and his he is at least twice the size of this dude. At least. I have to think it's almost 3. And he roars. It's like there's no talking left in Chopper. He roars instead of talking. Hated it. Hated this for him. Just want him to be okay. I'm really excited that he's like going to be exploring a wild thing. I want to see it. I'm not going to lie. But I feel like he's going to be so ridden with guilt after. I don't know. I'm just very worried about what he's going to do. Anyway. All right. I'm going to wrap up. I'm over time. But thank you guys again for coming and hanging out with me. Appreciate you all a lot. And thank you to Florian for commissioning this episode. And I will be seeing you all again very soon with a new episode. Until then, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.